Videos in the part of the Guptas ancient Indian history. In the part of the Guptas, in the last videos we discussed Guptas sources of the Guptas were completed in the last video, and also political history of the Guptas, it is also completed. Political history, we have been completed political history of the Guptas. In that political history we discussed different rulers, how they waged the wars, how they extended the empire. All these kind of the things we discussed in the last video. Along with this political history, we also explained about the decline of Guptas, how Gupta empire was declined. In the political history of the Guptas, Chandragupta I, Samudragupta and Chandragupta II. These were important rulers, and these three were the great rulers of Gupta empire. These three rulers, they built Gupta empire leaps and bounds of India. In the ancient India, forget about the present political map. This is ancient India, Indian subcontinent. Almost during the time of the Samudragupta period, the Gupta empire was extended like this, leaps and bounds. Even it extended outside India, Nepal, Bhutan, like other areas during the time of the Samudragupta period. That means after the Mauryans in the Indian history, Guptas, they brought India politically united. Under the Guptas period, after the Mauryans, under the Guptas period, India politically united. Political unification done under the Guptas period. First time in the Indian history, Mauryans were the first people. Those two brought political unity in India in the ancient period, and Mauryan empire is called as first historical empire in India. After this Mauryan empire ended almost 200 BC. From 200 BC to nearly 300 AD, this period, there were several rulers ruled India. Like this part was under the control of the foreigners, and this part was under the control of the Sungas and Kanvas. This part was on Dakkan, this part was under the control of the Satavahanas. In the ending of the Sangam kingdoms, end of the South India Sangam kingdoms, this was under the Kalinga. Like this, political disunity occurred during the time of the post-Mauryan period. This political disunity brought political unity. Political disunity changed into political unity by the Gupta rulers. So Guptas, they brought political unity in India around 4th century AD. In 4th century AD, Guptas established a great empire in India. And Guptas, they ruled nearly 2 centuries. Guptas, they ruled nearly 2 centuries. That is from 320 AD to 550 AD. This period, India was under the control of the Guptas. Guptas, they brought political unity this period. So under these great rulers like Chandragupta I, Samudragupta and Chandragupta II, they extended empire leaps and bounds. Now, after this, slowly coming to the point of the 6th century, starting of the 6th century AD, that is starting of 500 AD, starting of 500 AD, started the decline of Gupta empire. That already we discussed. Now, coming to the point of Gupta's administration, how they ruled and how they introduced administration. Gupta's administration was sound administration. They introduced a sound administration. They followed previous like Mauryan administration. But here coming to the point of the Gupta's age. Gupta's age is considered as Gupta's age is considered as a classical age of ancient India by the Romila Thapar. And Gupta's age is also called as golden age. That golden age, Gupta's age is called as golden age by the many scholars. Many scholars, they said that Gupta's age is considered as a golden age of ancient period. And the empire of the Guptas was certainly, it was lesser than the Mauryan empire. Mauryans, they established the great empire in India, but Guptas, they established less empire than the Mauryans. Even though Mauryan golden age, Gupta's period is called as golden age. This is most important to remember. We will discuss golden age of Guptas separately in separate topic. That was the separate topic. In which area, in which field it considered as a golden age, in which field it did not consider as golden age. That was the latter chapter. So during the Gupta's time, political development occurred. Social contribution was more and more during the time of the Gupta's period. That means social status of the lower caste were also developed. Sudras, Vaishyas, they also developed. Sudras also went to the agricultural field. And there was a migration of occupation from one to the another. Occupational migration was also occurred during this period, except in the Brahmins. So social contribution of the Guptas was very good. And religious contribution was also good. During this period, Buddhism, Jainism, they lost their importance. But revival of Hinduism continued during the time of the Gupta's period. That's why this is science and technology, literature developed, art and architecture developed, art and architecture very well developed during this period. And also science and technology, it was also developed during the Gupta's period. Based on all these developments, Romila Thapar, she said that Gupta's age is considered as a classical age of ancient India. So that is also called as golden age, because political development occurred, social development, religious development, literature, art and architecture, all these areas, it was a golden age. Next, coming to the point of administration of Gupta's period. Coming to the point of the administration of the Gupta's period. The main sources of administration of the Gupta's period was Kamandaka's Niti Shastra. Based on the Kamandaka's Niti Shastra, we can calculate the Gupta's age. We can consider the Gupta's age as during the time of the Gupta's period, they introduced sound administrative system. Sound administrative system. And other sources for the knowing of the Gupta Empire, they are Narada Smriti. It also speaks about the Gupta's administration, and other books like Visakadatta's Mudra Rakshasam. Visakadatta's Mudra Rakshasam. Kalidas works. And also inscriptions of the Guptas, like inscriptions of the Guptas, like Samudragupta, Allahabad inscription of Samudragupta. Mehroli inscription of Chandragupta II. Mehroli inscription of Chandragupta II. Prabhavati Gupta's Pune copper plates of the Prabhavati Gupta. All this speaks about Gupta's administration. All this speaks about Gupta's administration. These are the sources of the Gupta's administration. Coming to the point of the administration, here one thing you have to remember, administration was two types. In Indian history, ancient Indian history or medieval Indian history or modern Indian history, administration, coming to the point of the administration, it was two types. One is centralized administration. Another one is decentralized administration. What is centralized administration? What is decentralized administration? Coming to the point of the centralized administration, every power rested in the hands of the emperor. That means emperor was monarch. He was monarch. All the powers, appointment of the minister councils from top to bottom, except the lower cadre, that is except the village administration, the remaining all the administrations would be under the control of the king. No distribution of the powers. Here decentralization means distributed powers. Yeah, coming to the point of the Indian history, the entire Indian history, only two times we will find centralized administration. One is Mauryan's administration. Mauryan administration was centralized administration. In the centralized administration, the main character was the centralized administration. Army was under the control of the king. King used to maintain standing army. That is what called as standing army, feudal's army. So there was no feudal army. There was no feudal army during the time of the Mauryan period. Feudal army was absent. Only standing army. There was only standing army. That means giving salaries to the soldiers in the lieu of the only giving salaries. There was no land grants. Only salaries was given to the soldiers. That was the Mauryan administration. The main feature of the centralized administration was the complete power was rested in the monarch, that is in the king. King was the monarch. King used to take all the administrative powers. King will appoint everybody. And king has the standing army. King used to give salaries to the soldiers. There was no feudal army. And whereas coming to the point of Gupta's administration. Gupta's administration was decentralized administration. Mauryan administration was decentralized administration, whereas Gupta's administration was decentralized administration. That we discuss now. After this, every administration, it is two parts. Whatever the administration you take, it is two parts. Central administration and provincial administration. Administration is two parts. Central administration and provincial administration. Central and provincial, like present day central government, state government. Central government, state government, local self-government. In the provincial government, we will find state and local self-government. If you compare present day, central government, that is central administration is central government. Provincial administration was under the control of the state and local self-government. Okay, understand this? I think you got my point. Because if you compare present day, then only you can able to understand the things. Now coming to the point of the central administration. In the central administration, king and minister council, these were the important areas of the administration. That is in the central administration, king and minister council were important. Coming to the point of the king first. King followed divine kingship. He followed the divine kingship. King was monarch of that period. King is the head of the state, that is supreme head of the state. King is supreme head of the state and military head of the army, fountain head of judiciary, and fully loaded with powers. This was the description of the king. King is supreme head of the state, military head of the army, and also fountain head of the judiciary. He was fully loaded with powers. So this was a complete description of the king of that period. Coming to the point of the king titles. King used to have a sound titles. He has to have a sound titles like divine titles. Rajadi Raja, Maharajadi Raja, and Parama Rajadi Raja, Parama Bhattaraka, Ekadhi Raja, Parameshwara, Samrat, and Chakravartin. These were the titles of king. King used to have like these sound titles: Rajadi Raja, Maharajadi Raja, Parama Rajadi Raja, Parama Bhattaraka, Ekadi Raja, Parameshwara, Samrat, Chakravartin. All these were the very sound titles. So based on these titles, we will understand that king was more and more powerful. Whereas coming to the point of the Samudragupta, he described to equal to the gods. He himself described equal to the gods like Danda, Kubera, Varuna, Indra, Antaka, Yama, like this. All these titles were borne by Samudragupta. At the time of the wars, he was Danda. At the time of the giving land grants, he was Kubera. At the time of the suppressing immoral activities, he was Varuna. At the time of the protecting the people during the war, he was Indra. To the people, that is to the enemies, he was Antaka and Yama. Like this, he had different titles. It helped to the increasing the power of the ruler. After knowing these titles, other rulers, they will get fear in their mind. So Gupta kings, they would appoint all the governors. They have right to appoint the governors to the states like Kumara Matyas. Governors are called as Kumara Matyas. That means these Kumara Matyas were the provincial heads. provincial heads. Most probably kingdom will be divided into very small great province. Province is the biggest part of the kingdom, and some small number of provinces were there. Most of the Kumaramatyas will come from the princess, that is from the family of the king, royal family. Kumaramatyas will be always from the royal family. So these Kumaramatyas, they would maintain army here. That army we will discuss during the time of the army status of the Guptas period. And they were responsible to the king. Kumaramatyas are always responsible to the king. They were always responsible to the king. And coming to the point of the kingship, kingship is a divine kingship. Already we discussed that they followed the divine kingship. Divine kingship. King is a owner of the land. The land which was under the control of the king, he was a owner, complete owner of the land. He had all the powers to transfer land from one person to the another person, or to donate the land to the anybody. So kingship was hereditary. Hereditary means always goes to their family, own family. Most of the times, this kingship power always transferred to the eldest son. Eldest son was successor. Successor of the king was the eldest son always. This eldest son is called as a successor, or he was also called as Jesta. Successor or Jesta. Sometimes in the place of the eldest, ablest will also rule the kingdom. That means ablest cannot come directly. Ablest, he will come with wars. There would be succession wars. According to some information, Samudragupta, he killed Kacha and he ascended the throne. Samudragupta, whenever he was going to the throne, he killed the people. That means he killed his brother Kachagupta and he came to the throne. That was happened. So succession wars also there during the time of the Guptas period. And the old law of primogeniture, was not Virtue. That means successor, eldest son was not Virtue. Selection process was also there during this period. Yes, coming to the point of the selection process of this, during the time of the Gupta's period, there was selection process. This selection process we are knowing from the Allahabad inscription of Samudragupta. In the Allahabad inscription of Samudragupta, he himself mentioned that he was selected by the minister council during the time of Chandragupta I. Even during the time of the Chandragupta I period, he was selected by the rulers. So that was a kingship. So after this kingship, this is about the king. Next coming to the point of the minister councils. So according to the Kalidas, there were three important ministers. Kalidas, he mentioned in his books, in his works about the three ministers. One was a foreign minister, another one was a finance minister, and another one was law minister. According to the Kalidas, there were three types of the ministers. Only these three types of the ministers were mentioned by the Kalidas. But coming to the point of the normal council of ministers, in the other works, like we find minister councils from the other than the Kalidas works, some literary works, and also some inscriptions mentioned in the inscriptions. Based on the inscriptions, we will find different types of the council of ministers. What was the work of the council of ministers? Council of ministers, they used to give advice to the ruler. Advice to the ruler. King may take the advice or may not, but council of ministers, they would give the advice. Sometimes king, if possible, king, he will take the advice, but sometimes he may not take the advice from the council of ministers. Even the council of ministers give the advice, if it is not suitable for the administration, king will not follow. That was the importance of the council of ministers. Mantri Varya, they were called as mantrins. Different types of the mantris, different types of the ministers we will find here. Mahasandhi Vigraha. Mahasandhi Vigraha, he look over the war and peace. Like for example, coming to the point of the Mahasandhi Vigraha of this period, Mahasandhi Vigraha of this period, he was Harisena. Who was Harisena? Writer of Allahabad inscription. The writer of Allahabad inscription, Harisena, was Mahasandhi Vigraha during the time of the Samudragupta period. Next to Amatya. Amatya, he was chief of the counselorship. Mahabaladikruta, he was head of the military force. Mahadandanayaka, he used to maintain law and order. Law and order was under the control of the Mahadandanayaka. Ranabhandagarika, he was a treasurer. Bandagarika means treasurer. And Pradhama Kayastha. Pradhama Kayastha, he was a scribe, chief scribe. Scribe means the person who is writing and keeping the records of the ruler. Sometimes king used to appoint some persons, some ministers to write the different orders. Next, Mahapratihara, he was Chamberlain, look over the palace of the inside palace of the king. Prativedika, judges were called as Pradvivahaka, judges. Bataspati, chief of the cavalry. Pradhamakulika, head of peasants. That means Karshakas, laborers. Dandapasadipati. Dandapasadipati, he was police officer. Pustapala, the person who used to keep the records of the land records. Mahapitadipati. Mahapitapati, he was the head of the elephants. So these are the names you have to know. You have to know about this, about the minister councils. Most of the times they used to ask in the matchings and all the things. Coming to the point of the kingdom. Kingdom, for the purpose of the administration, kingdom was divided into Bhukti. Bhukti again divided into Vishaya, and last unit of the administration was Grama, village was the last unit of administration. State, head of the state was king, and head of the Bhukti, he was Uparika or Bhogika or Bhogapati. Vishaya, that is just like a district level. Vishaya, it is also called as a Pradesha. Head of the Pradesha was Vishayapati. Last unit of the administration was village. Village was under the control of the Gramani. Next, Visayas are called as districts. Royal officer Adhisthana or Adhikarana. Ranabanda Garika, he was Ranabandadikruta, military exchequer. Danda Parshadikarana, he was officer of the police. Vinaya Sthitistapaka, used to take law and order in the, all these people, they used to be in the Bhukti level, that is in the administration level. Bhataspapati, head of the infantry and cavalry. Vinayasur, he was a chief of censorship. Next, there were 4 members to give advice to the Vishayapati. Vishayapati, he was head of the Vishaya. In the level of the Vishayapati, there were 4 members to give the advices. Nagarashreshti, head of the guilds. Nagarashreshti, he was head of the guilds. Guilds means Sreni. Guild means Sreni. That is a occupational group. Guild is a occupational group. Occupational group is called as guild. Most of the times, these occupational groups, they would be live in the cities. So that's why city administration was under the control of the Sreshti. Later period, he was also called as Setti. Head of the guilds was Sreshti. Next, Sardavaha, head of the trade. Pradhama Kulika, already we discussed that, head of the peasants. Pradhama Kayastha, head of the scribe, this also we discussed. Purapala, head of the city. A part of the division of Vishaya is called as a Vithi. Vithi also mentioned in some areas. This also Vithi mentioned in some areas. Head of the Vithi was Ayaka. Ayaka was head of the Vithi. This was mentioned in very less times. A union of village is called as Petaka or Santaka. Some group of the villages. Small unit of the division of village was Agrahara or Patta. Coming to the point of the village head was Gramika, and Panchamandali, that is village assembly. Most of the times they used to give importance to the village assembly. Since from the Mauryan period, coming to the point of the Mauryan period, village assembly played independent role. This independent role started increasing during the time of the Guptas period, because Guptas completely they followed decentralized administration. And coming to the point of the members of that duties of the members. What are the duties of the members? Village assembly members, they used to collect taxes in the village, and they used to construct roads and buildings. They used to construct temples and irrigation, look over the roads and buildings, look over the temples and irrigation, and they used to collect taxes for the temples, irrigation taxes, irrigation facilities they would provide to the people. After this, some important officers in the village level, Talavataka, he was police. Seema Karmantakara, he was a frontier officer. Nyaya Karanika, officer who cleared the frontier problems of the village, from one village to the another village, demarcation. Gulmika, this forest officer, but Gulmika latter period mentioned in the what is that Satavahana's period? Satavahana's period, Gulmika mentioned head of the village. The position from Gupta's period to the Satavahana's period, it has been changed. Or Satavahana's period to the Gupta's period, it has been changed. Gulmika. Gulmika, during the time of the Satavahana's period, that is before the Gupta's period, head of the village. Now he was head of the forest. Goswami, he was called as ambassador. Next, Vukakalpa, that was main landlord. The landlord who has more land in the village level, he was called as Vukakalpa. Akshapatadhika, tax collector. Akshapatradhika, he was tax collector. These are the members of the village. There were some important village members. Coming to the point of the judiciary of the Gupta's period. Judiciary is a main important source. Devabarnar inscription mentioned about the judiciary of the Gupta's period. And also Kamandaka's Niti Sadra, Smruti books like Manusmruti, Narada Smruti, Yajnavalkya Smruti, Paraspara Smruti, Katyayana Smruti. All these Smrutis were composed during the time of the Gupta's period. But Guptas, they followed, among all these things, Guptas, they followed more Manusmruti. Because among all these things, Manusmruti was some liberate policies, liberate traditions. It followed the liberate traditions. During the Gupta's period, judiciary divided into civil and criminal. Civil and criminal law divided during the time of the Gupta's period. And according to the judiciary of the Gupta's period, king was the fountainhead of the judiciary. Whatever decision has been taken by the king, whatever the judgment has given by the king, there is no appeal to the king. That is fountainhead of the judiciary. So king's judgment is final. No appeal to the king's judgment. In the village level, Grama Sabha, it has full powers in the village level. Even till today, we have full powers in the Grama Sabha. Whatever decision has been taken in the Grama Sabha, no appeal to the Grama Sabha even. If there is no any judgment, if there occur wrong judgment in the Grama Sabha, then they can go to the court. But most of the times, Grama Sabha acted as an arbitrary in the several cases. In the city level, Nagara Sabha. It was also called as Nigama Sabha. Nagara Sabha, it was also called as Nigama Sabha in the city level. According to the law books of the Gupta's period, here, Brahmins by the snakes, Kshatriyas by the fire, Vaishyas by the water, and Sudras by the poison would be protected. That means if they wanted to test the Brahmin, they used to give the snake. Brahmin, they can protected by the snake. If they did not do any work, if they did not committed any crime, snake will be protected them. And coming to the point of the Kshatriyas, fire, they have to jump into the fire. And Vaishyas, water, they have to jump into the water. Jala Vishaya, that is what called as Jalavishaya, and poison by the Sudras. All these are called as judicial judgments. Judicial judgments. So this is about the judiciary of the Gupta's period. Now, after the judiciary, the next point is army. Army of the Gupta's period. Yeah, coming to the point of the army of Gupta's period, Guptas, they did not maintain standing army. No standing army. No standing army. Because they did not give salaries to the soldiers. They gave land grants to the army officers. They gave land grants to the army officers. These army officers, they worked as feudals. Feudals. What is the use of the feudals? What is meant by feudal? Feudal is just like small head of the kingdom. Small head of the kingdom. This feudal or Samanta, these were also called as Samanta kings. They used to maintain army. For the purpose of the maintenance army for the wars, these feudals, they would given land grants. Whatever the revenue is coming from the land grants, that will be enjoyed by the feudals and that used for the feudals army. By this time, giving land grants to the feudals was increased. Feudalism increased during the time of the Gupta's period. Feudalism increased during the time of the Gupta's period. This feudalism was one of the most important cause for the decline of Mughal Empire. Gupta's empire. Feudalism was the main cause for the decline of Gupta Empire because feudalism increased during this period. Why? Because feudals, they cannot send correct army to the ruler and they would not maintain correct army. For example, they are going to maintain horses. Maintenance of horses of that period is most tough work by the feudals. They used to take old horses or some diseased horses. Even old and diseased horses would be sent to the war. But these old and diseased horses cannot work in the war. That may affect the ruler. So here in the decentralized administration, king should be completely dependent upon the feudals. That was not correct. That was not correct. This happened during the Gupta's period. And army was 4 types. They maintained 4 forces. Army was 4 forces. Chariotry. That is what called as Radhabala. Elephantry. That is Gazabala. Elephantry. That is Gazabala. Next to cavalry. Asvikadala. Next, last one was infantry. Padati Dala. So they maintain 4 forces, but coming to the point of the Gupta's period, they gave less importance to the Radhabala and Gajabala. They gave more importance to the Asvikadala. It is most important in the wars. Infantry was also there. But whatever it may be, for the horses, I already said to you, for the horses they used to depend upon the feudals. That's why there is one example. Already we discussed during the time of the political history. Ramagupta period. Yeah, coming to the point of Ramagupta period. During the Ramagupta period, Basana, in a small ruler, Basana or Rudrasimha too, he was a small ruler of the Sakas. He invaded the kingdom and he defeated Ramagupta. He took away Dhruva Devi. To rescue the life of the Dhruva Devi, what Chandragupta II did? Chandragupta II, he disguised as Dhruva Devi and he killed Basana. He deceived Basana. That was the indirect war. If Guptas they would maintain standing army, he would not go to the disguised level, disguised manner. So it indicates that Guptas did not maintain standing army. Guptas were very weak in the maintenance of the standing army. Yeah, this is about the army of the Guptas. So here we completed administration of Guptas. This is about the complete administration of the Guptas period. In the next video, we will discuss social conditions and economical conditions, religious conditions of the Guptas. We left social conditions, economical conditions, religious conditions, art and architecture, science and technology, development of science and technology. So these topics are left. These topics we will discuss in the next video. Okay. Good luck to you all.